Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2! It's a challenge, Kakarot!
As briefly explained before, the step-in can be used as a transitional technique to reach a supplementary combo set. Such a technique can be used as a transitional means to reach hook execution by following X with triangle. The hook linked to the step-in will vary depending on which character is being used. Most characters will transition into the heavy finish, but some transition into Kai cannons and flying kicks. Keep in mind that as this is a transition for hook execution, directional hook execution is included. Incorporating the step-in with one's gameplay is very useful for one simple fact. The step-in creates a temporary state of invulnerability to melee attacks. Therefore, one could wait until the opponent begins a combo set, use the step-in to ignore the base melee and deliver a hook that holds higher priority than that of base melee. Defensively speaking, in regards to the charged melee and hooks, one would merely treat this technique as one would with the defensive teleport. But what makes this option even better, it also works against Kai cannon and grab attempts, whereas the defensive teleport does not. Examples: the step-in can be used against the heavy finish, charged melee, lift strike, grab attempt, and even the sweep. While the step-in works great against close proximity charged melee, it does nothing against ki-based super blasts. In this respect, the defensive teleport still proves to be the optimal choice. However, what about the rush attack? In this instance, one must now consider the different levels of focal adherence previously discussed. Knowing that the distance between characters can be defined as level 1 and level 2 of focal adherence, one must know exactly where he stands in order to perform this next technique properly. As explained before, the step-in can only be performed within the step-in barrier, otherwise known as level 2 of focal adherence. If the player attempts to perform a step-in outside of the step-in barrier, he would perform a dash, exemplifying his position in level 1 of focal adherence. Understanding this, now consider the following. The rush attack, though executed as a super blast, is still melee-based. Therefore, if timed correctly, one could use the step-in as an effective means of defense against the rush attack, while presenting itself as a transitional technique for follow-up counterattack. When the opponent executes the rush attack, in order to make contact, he must breach the step-in barrier, thus presenting the would-be victim an opportunity to defend via step-in. Whether one chooses to defend against a rush attack with teleportation or step-in, one must always consider the approach factor of the rush attack: speed, range, and directional approach. Now, both of these techniques are great to use as a means of timing the attack and countering accordingly. However, if a player lacks the timing, one can always defend against the rush attack by performing a rush attack himself, alternatively performing Dragon Dash. This will cause the impact to engage in a fast-paced battle animation in which both players must rotate their joysticks as fast as possible to decide who will be victorious in the struggle. The victor will knock the opponent away, presenting the opportunity for follow-up attacks. This joystick rotation circumstance is reflected if two players perform the same type of super blast that creates a clash animation. Now let's look at the counter stance. If you are familiar with the fight game community, I'm sure you've encountered multiple games with counterattack potential. Such counterattacks can be initiated by parrying or even activating a counter stance. Well, thankfully, the minds of Tenkaichi Creation decided to include the same for Tenkaichi 2. The counter stance can be activated by a variety of means. However, it is very important that the player understands that the counter stance is only effective against base melee. Hooks, charged melee, and rush attacks are immune to the counter stance, so you must know what attacks you are defending and use the proper method accordingly. When the counter stance is activated, the character will physically change stance to accept attack. If the base melee activates the counter attack, this will result with one of three counters: the counter throw, the counter strike, sometimes causing D-lock, and the counter after image, which is basically defensive teleporting for all melee including the base. The counter throw will result with the deflecting of the opponent's attack and grabbing him for the follow-up throw. The counter strike will result with an immediate result of knocking the opponent into the air, sometimes forcing the opponent to D-lock. Finally, The counter after image results with the player automatically defensively teleporting out of the way. Such results relate to the given character of choice, so again, you must know which character you are using for the proper counter. But how does one activate the counter stance? Well, there are several ways. The first and most relevant method in relation to what we've previously covered is through the step-in. As explained before, one can reach hook execution by performing the step-in with triangle. As such, counter stances can be activated by following the step-in with circle. Much like one would use the step-in hook transition as a means of counter-attack, one can use the same transition to use the opponent's attack against him, aka counter stance. In affiliation with the step-in, one can also activate the counter stance through following the sidestep, backstep, ascension hop, descent hop, and even base melee with circle. However, there is one more method to activating the counter stance that simultaneously presents a new depth to the combo system of Tenkaichi 2, which is melee cancellation. Oh yes, one of the main aspects of Budokai 3 that emphasizes offensive depth also exists in Tenkaichi 2. In fact, every chargeable melee in Tenkaichi 2 can be cancelled in the same manner as Budokai 3. But wait a minute, didn't I say every single square within a combo set can be charged? Yes, they can, as well as jumping melee, dashing melee, and over 80% of hooks. This means that a combo can literally be cancelled at any point, presenting opportunity to change direction of the combo at any time. This also means that combo limitations that were earlier presented through forcing collapsed aftermath can now be avoided by further combo potential. As far as Dragon Ball Z gaming has come for Budokai, most of the technical advancements that bring so much depth to the combo system resides in the fact that combo cancellation exists. However, as many different combos that exist within any given character's arsenal, they are still bound by a limited cancellation construct, comparatively speaking. In other words, combos in Budokai 3 may include cancellation potential, but only certain buttons within each combo are able to be cancelled. However, by cancellation potential comparison, being able to cancel a combo at any time one chooses reveals more combat-ready options for the player than what would be seen in the Budokai system. This, of course, does not devalue the complexity of the Budokai system, nor does it outright prove that Tenkaichi's combo system is superior. I'd rather say that depends on who's holding the controller. No matter when or in what direction the charged melee is performed, the player can always cancel the attack by pressing one of the 3 remaining face buttons before the charged attack is released. This means one must pay closer attention to how fast the charge meter is flashing, for the window of melee cancellation may become shorter and shorter the further along the combo continues. The potential of one's combo can at this point be left up to the imagination, as long as one possesses the skill to control the combo. Remember, while one cannot include key blasts into the normal combo as the key blast button executes a hook activation, since one can cancel a combo at any given time, key blast incorporation is also available for one's combo. With the concept of natural cancellation understood, the player must now consider the value of his or her defensive options. Guarding, even in the required direction, may not result with 100% effectiveness, especially when regarding the Kai Cannon. The defensive teleport can be used against charged melee and most hooks, but does nothing against flying kicks, nor the Kai Cannon. A well-timed step-in may work against the Kai Cannon, but does little against flying kicks. Regardless of the defensive tactic, all choices are in question if the opponent chooses to cancel his or her chargeable attack, be it charged melee or a charged hook. A miscalculated attempt for a defensive step-in against a cancelled attack may leave the player open for follow-up attack. As one can see, there is a defensive option for each attack, but a cancelled attack only removes the value of such defense. Given what's been discussed thus far, a well-timed counterattack via counter stance may be the best option. One could also use a well-timed offensive of base melee that would neutralize the opponent's attack due to equal priority. But both of these options would fail against an attack that was expected to be cancelled, but never was. One may also consider an even more basic means of defense, via sidesteps and backsteps. This has proven to be effective in many fighting games in the past that present strafe zoning. But again, the successfulness of such defensive executions will depend on the level of charge release relating to the attack, as well as offensive recovery relating to cancelled attacks. If the cancellation recovery time is short enough to re-establish orientation before the sidestep is complete, a player may find himself under attack before the defensive technique is concluded. Aside from cancellation issues, a weak charged melee, or for that matter, an uncharged hook, may find its target before an effective defensive maneuver can be successfully achieved. One can resort to basic zoning tactics by controlling the distance with basic movement, aka controlling the barrier, but a skilled opponent will close the distance a lot faster than a player attempting to increase it. That being said, I also said that there is yet another method to activating a counter stance. This is true, for after each melee cancellation exists an opportunity for a counter stance by simply holding the button used for melee cancellation. However, it is important that the player does not mash the buttons, or an intended combo cancellation may not allow further combo transitioning without accidentally activating the counter stance. Now that we are getting into the deeper end of the basics, stay tuned for the next episode, where we will get into the offensive teleportation system. This is ZeroAnnihilated, and you are watching Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 Evolution.